Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Penny Lane podcast. On this episode, Blaine is joined by Mike Edward of the True Trading Group to discuss growth, the mental side of trading, and the importance of perseverance. Make sure you do follow us over on YouTube and check out the audio version of our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Enjoy.
Mike, hi. Welcome to the Penny Lane podcast. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you. It feels like such a blast from the past for me because when I started trading, I very famously almost joined Tim Sykes' Millionaire Challenge.
Yes.
And I paid to get the interview, and it was like $200 to talk on the phone with them. And then I talked on the phone with them, and they're like, Blaine, you sound really dedicated. I think you would be a really great trader. We'd love for you to join our program. It's going to be, $6,000 up front, and we'll teach you how to trade. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll have to get back to you. Because, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of money. And then I went and asked my husband, I was like, do you think I should do this? And he was like, God, no.
No.
Then, absolutely not. And I'm like, but they said that I had promise. And he was like, no, you're getting hosed here. And I literally Googled, I need someone to teach me how to trade, and he's on the top of everything.
Of
So anyway, didn't do that, but at the time you were doing a ton of live streams, so I was like, I think I'll just watch these.
Yeah. 6 days a week. 6 days a week.
Learn here. And you were going over this Starbucks chart on one of them, and I really learned a lot from you going over that. So played an important part in my journey, and I've not paid you, so thank you for that.
It's my pleasure.
So, I would love to just know a little bit about you. Just what's your quick elevator pitch?
For True Trading Group or
No, just for who you are. You and I have 2 minutes, and you're going to tell me who you are.
So I am someone that started kind of my interest in the markets I was originally an accounting major in college, and then I took a portfolio management course as part of my business gen ed courses, and it completely changed. That was my first experience getting exposed to the markets and asset allocation, and I hated accounting. It was so boring. I hated it. It was I never wanted to do any homework. I was getting C's on my tests. It wasn't working out. So, and then I switched over to finance because of the portfolio management course, and it was just I just completely fell in love with the markets, and I switched over and I started taking a bunch of different economics classes, and then I just focused with finance and economics then going through for the rest of college. And out of college, I must have applied to maybe 25 different hedge funds out of college, and only a handful of them ever responded to me. And I was lucky enough to actually get a job offer from one of them. So I began my career as a trader, working at a fund in New York City. We managed about $450 million. So not a huge hedge fund. It's not like we were managed, there's hedge funds out there that manage hundreds of billions of dollars. But that was where I really started my journey. And, it's funny because when I go through now, and I've been doing this now for 16 years, and when I try to teach people and go over and explain to people that when they first get started, you have to think of this one thing. When I got hired at that fund, they didn't let me touch their money for 3 months. Literally, it was just classroom style for 3 months, where it was just other traders and analysts from the fund were teaching all the new hires. So that was really I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to go to Tim Sykes. I didn't have to go to YouTube and filter through all the garbage that's out there, because there's a lot of crap out there online, and I almost feel, it's unfortunate that people just are trying to learn something, but they're getting, bombarded but from sales tactics to spend, $6,000 or spend $200 to talk to somebody on the phone. It's just crazy. It shouldn't be that expensive, and it shouldn't be that difficult for people to actually find information that everybody should have access to. Like, I don't need to learn what an isosceles triangle is, but I need to learn how to maybe invest in a long-term portfolio or understand why markets go up and why markets go down. So it's like that was kind of how I got my start, and that was right before 2008, which was the Great Recession and the stock market crash. And I ended up receiving one of the Funds Trader of the Year awards because I was short a lot of the banks and the financials in 2008 when they all, completely fell apart as these stocks went down 60, 70, 80% during that time period. And I had short positions on them, and that's what earned me the Trader of the Year award. And then now, fast forward, now here I am, many, many years later. And my business partner, Adam, who I know, Penny, I know I'm not sure if maybe your viewers, I think he might have been a guest actually once.
No, but I do
What?
know him.
Okay.
Yes,
I've
we've talked and yeah.
So, and when we went ahead and we started True Trading Group because I want to level the playing field for retail traders and investors. It's they don't have anywhere to get the knowledge or the education or have access to the tools to do it. And it certainly shouldn't cost $6,000. So
totally.
That's kind of, where we are today.
I know that there's a lot of sort of tension on Twitter and in the financial world about paying for education versus free education. Yeah. And I have had so many people on here who have paid rooms, and I think I fall on the side of like, I don't mind paying for good information. Like, I actually think it's a fantastic filter of sort of what can I trust, or what do I want to pay attention to, or what, like, you're paying for that trust factor. Yeah. And I just really think that people who are getting paid and treated as a business and provide wonderful information, like, that's a win-win for everybody. And you guys do that so well. And True Trading Group is so organized, and it like filters out so much bullshit, and the voice is, it's like everything you need and nothing you don't, which is, I mean, I've spent a ton of time listening to you guys and being in the chat, and I just think, the number one thing that people come to True Trading Group for is to make money. And then the second reason they come is to learn how to trade. And you guys give them that in such a digestible package. I'm a very, very big fan of what you guys do.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's that people, you want us to be a business. You want, and us, True Trading Group, you don't want us to treat you like charity. You are paying for a service. You want to be able to hold us accountable for that service and for the expectations that you hold us to. You don't want just for someone just give me, this free stuff, because there's no accountability there. That's why we have like the double your money back guarantee. You've heard me talk about it 100 times. If anyone's seen my live streams, you know that we offer a double your money back guarantee. You want us to be a business. There's over 20 employees at True Trading Group that make sure that the platform, because it's not just like, hey, just join True Trading Group so you can get all my trade alerts. That's not just what it is. We've built a platform. I'm the trader. Adam, my business partner, we scaled this up with the members in mind, and has make sure that the platform where people get their education, where they have access to all the tools like the scanners, the alerts, the news feed, the analyst ratings, the dark pool data, the options activity, like all that stuff is not free. Like we can't give out all of that data and information for free because it costs us a hell of a lot of money as a company to have all of that on a platform so everyone has access to it in one place, rather than you having to go to like 6 different websites to try to get all this information, which would also be very, very expensive. So people want you want us to be a business. You don't want us to treat you like a charity.
Absolutely. I worked I was doing startup for a while with a man who was doing options and journaling. That was the premise of the business. And that data fee is no joke.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big business expense. But so we were doing options flow, and I actually talked about this on the last podcast. I was the marketing person. I have worked my whole career in marketing, and I was trying to distill down, like, what kind of edge does option flow give you? And that is a complicated thing to figure out.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I can figure out that edge, I could sell this to everybody. So what I like that you guys do is it's not just, here's flow, like, go figure that out. There's a filter of how is this useful, or because left to your own devices, people are signing up for options things and they're just getting recurring payments of $35, $40 a month. And they probably spend 2 days on there. And then they're like, I don't know how this is useful, like, but I guess I need it. And it's just such a way of taking advantage of traders who are struggling by definition.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Options flow, similar to like, it's basic, time and sales for options, and obviously watching flow for like all of the tickers in the market would be an obscene amount of data for one person to try to filter through, which is why like so many services exist that help you filter through that, and usually on a much bigger scale, you have like hedge funds will have like algorithms that will filter through all of that endless amounts of data in hundreds of different stocks to make distinctions between where are they seeing flow of buying and selling in those different option contracts, not even necessarily within one particular stock, but they'll use it for spread across an industry or spread across a sector. Like if you see, for example, all of a sudden there's a large flow of orders through on put options on, let's say, AMD, NVIDIA, Intel, Qualcomm, like all your semiconductors, an algorithm would pick that up. And then all of a sudden now you start to think about, well, hold on a second, where's all of this put option flow coming from? Maybe somebody knows something that's going to happen. Maybe they know, like just literally right now, after hours, you just had NVIDIA reported that the US is going to be requiring additional licensing to export products into China in the future. So, right before I came on your podcast, your NVIDIA, AMD, the semiconductors are all trading lower right now, even after they sold off during the day. They're trading even lower to the downside because of that news that just came out. You might have a situation where somebody might know that ahead of time and an algorithm could pick that up and then would trade on the back of that. So there's a lot of different filters and a lot of different ways to be able to get access to that options flow. And whenever, with True Trading Group specifically, I predominantly trade equities. Me personally, I predominantly trade equities. I also do trade options, but predominantly I trade equities. There's other moderators in True Trading Group, like I know Chris Toner, Momin, like those guys are mainly our option traders. Like Chris Toner's been trading options for over 20 years. So whenever anybody has questions about unusual options activity and options flow, like Chris Toner has done many workshops for members, like helping them read and understand and how to analyze that data so that they can make better decisions, so they can have a little bit of an edge.
I really like how on your plays, there's always an option. Well, on your long plays, is there an option?
Yeah. So whenever I trade a mid cap or a large cap, I'll trade the equity. Now, I have the account size and the capital to buy the shares of NVIDIA or Tesla or Apple or whatever it is that I'm trading. But I understand that some people don't have the capital to buy a $200 stock. So I will always alert, okay, guys, I am long at like the Pinduoduo today. That was a stock that I traded today. I bought it at $70, but I also told members, okay, I'm going to buy this stock at $70. If you want to buy the stock also, or you want to follow this trade, you can go after like the $71 call option that expires on September 9th. So like I'll always give people an option to coincide with my trade. just so for the people that don't have the capital to buy the equity itself. Or if I'm shorting something, I'll give them a put option on how they could follow the trade idea, but just by using a different method.
And really a highlight of my career today, I took PDD as a trade, like on that level break, and then like 25 minutes later, I got the alert that you took it, and I was like,
Yes! Oh, that's awesome.
so excited.
I love it. I love it.
I'm
love
gonna
it so
hold
much.
it for a few days, so different like style. But I was like, oh my god,
He sees the same thing. Yes. No, that's awesome.
So excited.
I love that. I love hearing that. Like, because it really shows you how much that you are learning. And that's why, like, especially when I'm trading during the day and I'm on the microphone and I'm telling everybody what I'm seeing, I am constantly thinking out loud. If you're going to learn, if you are really going to learn how to identify high probability patterns, that's all trading is. A lot of people think that trading is, oh, let me just find someone that can predict the future. That's not what trading is. Trading is identifying high probability setups. That's what it is. Put yourself on the right side of that probability over and over again with good risk management. That's trading. And I think it's very, very important for any educator, even if you're not listening to myself or one of the other mods in True Trading, even if you're getting this from somebody else, anyone that's going to be educating somebody, you need to hear the thought process. It's not just the action. It's not just, hey, I bought this stock at this price. That's not enough. You're not going to learn that way. You have to understand, why am I buying the stock at that price? The thought process, the reasoning, the analysis, that's where the learning comes from. And once you start seeing that you are taking trades or you're looking at trades before, someone that's been doing it for 16 years is even getting into something or looking at it, that's how you know that you're grasping the information. That's how you know that, wow, okay, like he sees the same thing that I saw, and it reaffirms and gives you kind of that boost of confidence that you're seeing progress. That's awesome.
Totally. I loved your reasoning behind. So I'm a big puts girl. Like I like puts. I will filter a lot of things through. I just want to buy puts on this, and has not been my most successful strategy. Honestly, I just prefer it. Mm-hmm. But I really liked your reasoning behind Meta. Like a couple weeks ago when you were shorting Meta and your like sector strength idea, and that it was like the weakest in the sector, all just made a lot of sense. But then also I took that trade with you, gave me a lot of like confidence, because I was like, all of this makes a lot of sense. And AMD is my favorite stock, which, I was trading Apple forever, and then I got really onto AMD, but as I'm expanding more, I have to, I like AMD because when it breaks down or is in a bear flag, you can get such a volatile move off of a bear flag. I really like everything about that. But that's not a setup that happens every day, every 2 days, every 3 days. So in my kind of growth of I'm trying to find really good setups, but then I also like the sector, what's going on in the sector, or the sector strength or the sector weakness specifically. Yeah. And I learned a lot of that just from listening to you that I wouldn't necessarily have known. I'm just well, I'm playing AMD, or because a stupid sort of, I don't know. I also I think I'm super close with Jason, and he's just so good at that. I have so much respect for him.
Yeah, understanding sector strength and weakness and relative strength and weakness is an aspect of trading that I don't think is focused on enough, because people are very keen to looking under a microscope, and they will just zone in and they will focus in on one stock, one chart, one time frame, one chart pattern and they miss everything else that's going on around them. Just because you see a bull flag does not mean that that's a good long. Just because you see a bear flag doesn't mean it's a good short. There's a lot of other things that you have to think about and identify. Remember what I said before. Trading is about identifying high probability setups. There's a difference between a setup and a pattern. A pattern is just a chart pattern, right? Like you said, a bear flag. That's a chart pattern. A setup is the chart pattern of the bear flag, but it's also is, if we're talking about AMD, for example, maybe there's a bear flag on AMD, but maybe NVIDIA just announced really strong earnings and that stock's actually green on the day. Or maybe the NASDAQ is up 1%. That's an example where you have a bearish chart pattern without having a bearish overall setup. And not to say that the stock can't continue lower off of the chart pattern, but it reduces the probability of the setup. And traders want to make sure that they can understand and absorb the entire setup. The Pinduoduo trade today is also a very good example of that. If anyone that's listening to your podcast right now, if you looked at a chart of all the Chinese internet names, look at Alibaba, look at Baidu, look at JD.com, and look at Pinduoduo. You look at those four stocks, Pinduoduo is by far the strongest chart out of all of them. They also just reported the strongest earnings out of all of them 2 days ago, which is why when I saw relative strength in the Chinese internet names today, I chose to get long Pinduoduo rather than Alibaba or JD.com. And it turned out to be the right move because Pinduoduo was the only one that made a new high of the day in the afternoon. Not JD, not Baba, not Baidu. It was Pinduoduo was the only one that made new highs. And if I chose to get into Baba or any of the others, the stocks all just went sideways. None of them gave you upside. So that analysis was the difference between me making money today or just having like a flat break-even day. It's not enough just to recognize like a sector, but recognize the relative strength within the sector, what stocks are the strongest, what stocks are the weakest, and then follow the sentiment in the overall market along with it. If the markets are weak, go after and attack the weakest stock of a sector. Don't fight don't try to short the strongest stock in a sector.
Yeah. Yes. Also, the PDD trade today is talking about time frames. Like looking at that daily chart, it was so like prime. It was so like ready, I guess, or had like, I don't know. I feel like it's like energy constricts. Like it had just had like
it coils, right? Like it coils
yes.
against spring.
Yeah. So it's like ready. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I also would be like super bad for a long time about trying to short things that were having like really strong green days. And Jason actually was like, if you continue to step in front of trains, like you're going to die. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It's so funny, the different, like, I kind of wish that I had kept a journal of just, like, I don't know, it's been a long journey.
Yeah.
Right? And you have these different sort of, like, moments along the journey that then just become part of who you are as a trader. And I think it's so fascinating, the kind of things that will just dawn on you. And you're like, oh, I didn't really...
Yeah. It's incredible. It really is incredible, and everyone's journey is completely different. And I always tell people, don't ever compare yourself to anybody else, because everybody has their own process, and everybody has their own ups and their own downs, and they have their own light bulb aha moments on different things. And it really is most people, if you are taught, will be able to read a chart, right? Most people, once you're taught real technical analysis with a greater than 50% accuracy, I can probably ask somebody, take a look at this chart. Do you think the stock's going to go up or down? That's simple. It's going to go up or down. After getting educated on technical analysis, most people can do that. But that doesn't mean they can translate it into actually executing a trade and actually making money on it. So that's the proof that trading is it's all up here. And all the things that some people think that just because I've been doing this for a long time, that someday you're just going to reach a point where you don't have any problems whatsoever. No, the mental parts of trading is something that you will deal with for your entire life and your entire career. And it's your job to be able to kind of maintain and control those emotions, and to, it's like the second that you think that you have mastered the stock market, that's the second the stock market humbles you. It's like my journey is not over. My journey is still going on, just like your journey is going on. We're just at two different parts in the race. You might be on your second lap. I'm on my 20th lap, but we still have a long way to go. So I'm still in the journey, and some people forget that.
It's absolutely astounding how mentally difficult it is. And it's the epitome of like one step forward, two steps back, or whatever that saying is. I thought that I was a really like strong person. I've gone through some adversity. I've done just like some very, very difficult things, and I've never gotten even like close to anything as mentally taxing as this is, because it just can make me hate myself in a horrible way.
Yep.
That nothing, I mean, like, I also talk on my podcast all the time about my own like struggles with alcohol, and sort of like I tie that in so much to trading, but like drinking too much in a way that's sort of like embarrassing or whatever is the only other thing that can make me be like, oh, like, better, you can do better, you
like
can,
upset with yourself.
Yeah. But trading, I'm like totally lucid. And I still will make mistakes that I made on my first day, or I'm really bad about, if a trade is working, I will average up when I should be like scaling out. And I know that I do that. I know that is my biggest weakness. And I don't know. And it just will make you question like all the things that you take for granted.
It's true.
About yourself.
It's so true. You find out a lot about yourself when you become a trader. You find out a lot about your strengths and your weaknesses. You find out a lot about your personality. You find out a lot about how greedy you are. You find out a lot about how disciplined you can be, because it's kind of like, I can't think of the exact saying, but it's when it's the deeds you do when no one's looking type of saying, that there is no one that's giving you direction. There is no one that's telling you don't do this or do that. It's all up to you. You can give yourself rules, but you actually have to follow the rules yourself. Trading is the most emotional thing that most people are going to do, and it's that emotion. Like, you have to think about when you're trading, you're dealing with money, and money is a very emotional topic. Greed of wanting to make more, and fear of losing it. Now, greed and fear are two of the strongest emotions, probably aside from greed, love, and fear. Greed and fear are probably the strongest emotions that humans have. Those emotions are constantly at a tug of war when you are trading. It's greed and fear. Your job is to make sure that tug of war lasts forever. You don't ever want one of them to win. You want greed and fear to play tug of war for your entire trading career. You don't ever want either one of them to win. And that's why trading is so difficult. That's why computers dominate the stock market. That's why 80% of the volume transacted on the New York Stock Exchange in any given day is done by a computer, because computers don't have emotions. Which is why every single thing that you need to do in your trading needs to be, at least in my trading and what I try to teach people in True Trading Group, every single thing, everything I don't do, everything I do, every thing, even if it doesn't seem like the right thing at that moment in time, there's a bigger play of I'm doing this very purposely to control my emotions and keep my emotions out of it. Because that is when you will take your trading to the next level. If you can keep your emotions completely out of the equation, keep your emotions out of the decision-making process, that is when you're going to start to have success. But people don't do that. People make decisions based on their emotions. And when you make decisions based on emotions, that's when you make mistakes in trading. When you make mistakes in trading, that is when you lose money. And that's when you start to hate yourself because you're like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have did that. But you do it anyway. And it's because you're letting either greed or fear get the best of you in that moment in time.
Totally. There have been trades that you have taken that I've taken with you that you do great on and I do terrible on. And I took your entry, but I'll take more than I should have, or you'll stop out and I'll be like, but I maybe, or there's I think that's so.
It's crazy. It's crazy how two traders can see the exact same setup, take the exact same entry. One will make money and one will lose money. How is that possible? Right? That shouldn't be the case, but it is. Because stocks don't go up or down in straight lines. There's pullbacks, there's consolidations, there's big green candles, there's big red candles, and people will let their emotions rise and fall based on those minute little price fluctuations or those under the microscope pieces of data rather than sticking to the original plan that they had. Before you enter a trade, you have no emotions. You're not emotionally connected to the trade. So it's very easy for you to have the analysis. It's easy for you to come up with a plan, but it's very difficult for you to actually follow the plan because now you're invested. Now your emotions are at play. It's most people that struggle, at least I do a lot of one-on-one mentoring with members. And one of the problems that I see people struggle with the most is, Mike, I'm right more than I'm wrong, but I'm still losing money. How? And that's the thing that I see from people the most, because they'll have an idea, but they don't follow it. And they deviate away from the game plan in the middle of the trade because they're one candle and they're like, oh well, wait a second, that candle shouldn't have happened. So maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm going to get out early, or I'm gonna oh, that candle looks really good, so I'm not going to take profit because look how fast the stock got there. I must be super right, so it's going to go even further, and they don't take profit and the stock reverses. They allow themselves to change their game plan based on price action. And I literally tell people, you take a piece of paper, draw a line right down the middle. On the left side, game plan. On the right side, execution. What's your idea? Write it on the game plan. And then when you're finished with the trade, what was your execution? Where'd you get in? Where'd you get out? Write it down. Do those things match? If they did, I don't care if you won or lost on the trade. Do they match? Good job. Good job. I don't care if you won or lost. The losses are going to happen. You're going to have losing trades. But if you can always match your execution to your game plan, you have a much higher chance of success because the game plan is developed with no emotional connection. The execution is where the emotions come into play. So when you can make those two match, that's when you know you've got your emotions under control. And that's when you're going to have the best chance of success.
Bo.
Blaine.
We're hat twins.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are. I'm so excited that we're sponsored by Rhoback now. I have been wearing my gear ever since it came in the mail, and I love the colors, but I especially love this little dog. I wore him to the pool last night, and people were giving me the thumbs up.
Yeah, this stuff is awesome. I had heard about it before and always wanted some, but now that I have it, it has exceeded all of my expectations.
Is this your first time receiving a gift in the mail from a company and opening it and checking out the product?
It might be. It certainly is associated with the podcast.
I have gotten those before, and I was blown away by the quality of this product. It far exceeded what I thought that it would be, And I truly think I'm just going to like live in it all fall.
Yeah.
It's so comfortable.
Yeah, I've been playing golf a lot this summer, and so I like all my golf gear. But the thing about golf shirts is like the sleeves are always too long and they're always too baggy. And like, I'm relatively in shape guy. So this fits me perfectly. I still have full range of my arms to swing a golf club. And like, I could wear this doing anything, not just golf. Like they got hoodies, they got quarter zips. It's like nice and stretchy. I love every single thing I got.
Me too. Me too. I love it. It all looks so good together. It's part of a set. And I feel so thrilled to be able to offer our listeners a 20% off code, which is
Penny 20.
all right. So you go to rhoback.com, which is RHOBACK.com. And you just enter Penny 20, you get 20% off, and thank us when your order arrives because it's lovely. You also know how much I love opening experience. Like I'm such a snob about packaging and the way things are presented, and it was a treat.
Yeah, the shit's awesome. I'm not like,
Yeah.
Don't even have to like, I would just promote this to anybody regardless of a sponsor or whatever, because this shit slaps.
Also, you've already been like low-key pumping out the Penny 20 to your closest friends because you really believe in it.
No, absolutely. I'm sending this to all my friends because it's shit I think that they're going to want anyways. So, why not take advantage of the discount and rep it everywhere?
Totally. Thank you, Rhoback. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Rhoback. This episode is brought to you by a new social investing platform called Personify. Personify is a gathering place for both stock and crypto investors to share trade ideas, portfolios, and investment analysis with the community. The app was inspired by modern investors who enjoy trading within a community and sharing ideas, but lacked a platform specifically designed for it. Traditional social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Discord weren't designed specifically with this in mind, which makes it difficult for creators to share and learn. Personify is great because it's the only platform that specifically acts as a personal investing journal where subscribers can learn while also keeping track of their own thoughts and ideas. It's a culture devoted to learning and understanding the why behind trading strategies. It's the go-to social destination for both economic content creators as well as students of the market. Download the app and join the Personify community today.
The other day, this is very, very fresh. The other day, I was trading AMD, my favorite, and I took like a massive loss on it that I know better than to take that big of a loss. And there were a lot of factors into me taking that loss, like some personal things that I was already emotional. I shouldn't have been trading, like all of these things. And I called Jason on Friday, like sobbing, like I can't do this. And I there are so few people that I know that I could tell that to and expect like a really honest response, because there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are also struggling or on similar journeys or whatever. And I am in a place now where I think that people are like, well, she has to make it because we're similar, or I feel a lot of pressure just from the listeners. And I think people also like me, which is so lovely and wonderful. But people aren't going to be honest with me. They're going to be like, of course you'll make it, whatever. And Jason does not give a shit about hurting my feelings or what. So I knew that he would tell me the truth. And so I called him sobbing. And he was so, so incredibly kind in that conversation. And I expected him to say, like, you can't do it. You've got to stop. And he gave me such lovely advice. But he told me, like, until you have a very, very strong system that you can follow exactly what that system is, this is going to continue to be a problem. And I really appreciated that honesty, because I've skated for so long on, my stop will be the 20 EMA, or like, and then I'll be like, well, it's a candle close above the 20 EMA, or it's maybe I'll try the 50, or
right.
And
maybe I'll move it. Maybe this is, you keep,
yeah, or like it's slowing down, or all of all of the things. And he's right. And I know that he's right. But I have just gone for so long thinking like it's gonna get better. And it just doesn't get better. I'll make rules and then I won't, do the rules or whatever. It's a hard thing.
Something that I did, and I don't know if it's coincidence or what, but all I know is it worked for me. When I used to have mental issues that I was really trying to work on and overcome, and I had a rule that I had to implement and I couldn't stick to it, I really believe that as human beings, we crave the authoritative figure. Like we so much would rather be told what to do than figure out what to do ourselves. And I really do believe that psychologically as humans that does play a major role. And I think that hearing someone give you direction will be easier for you to follow than you giving yourself the same exact direction. So I used to have a notebook right next to my desk, and I would write down whatever it was whatever the rules were, whatever I needed to do, whatever I needed to stop doing, whatever it was. Every single morning I would read that, but I wouldn't just read it inside my head. I would actually read it out loud every single day, like in third person, like as if I was talking to someone. And call me crazy, I don't know if it's coincidence, but I think hearing the direction, like as if someone's telling me to do this or not do this, I think that had an impact for me with actually sticking and following to those rules. And I've had other members in True Trading Group that I've told that story to, that they've also done the same thing, and they've come back to me weeks or months later and be like, Mike, it's actually kind of working for me too. So I thought I was crazy at first, but once members started doing it too, and it started to help, I think maybe that there could be something to that.
Totally. It is, how does it feel to be on the other side of a one-on-one? I'm such a confession, like even on this podcast, I just go over with sort of all the things that I'm doing wrong. Mm-hmm. How do you put yourself in a position of like authority in that, and how is it different?
Well, I think what a lot of people have to realize is a lot of the struggles that members come to me with, I've experienced myself. People forget that like I had my struggles and I had my ups and I had my downs and I had moments where I didn't think that I can do this and moments when I wanted to quit. And so it's usually when someone has an issue, it's like, okay, I've been there, I've done that, I know exactly what you're going through. Here's how I got over that. And I just kind of put myself in a position where it's like, okay, like I do all my one-on-ones. I ask a bunch of questions because I need to understand the type of trader that you are. I need to understand what experience level you have, what you've learned in the past, because a lot of people have learned something incorrectly and that they carry bad habits with them forward. So I really need to understand the type of trader that they are. And then I just break down piece by piece and try to figure out what's the root cause. A lot of people, I always compare it. I don't know if you golf or not, but I always compare it like to golfing. Everyone always tries to fix their golf swing, but they think that one thing is wrong and they'll compensate for it. And they just to kind of mask what they think is wrong, but they're actually creating another problem somewhere else in their swing. Trading's a lot like that, where people think they have a problem and they'll do something, but all that does is it's a snowball effect. It creates another problem. And then once you have physical problems and you start losing, then all of a sudden you create mental problems and it's just a downward spiral. So I just try to put myself in a position where I'm listening, and then I'm going to tell you I've been there, done that, and this is what's worked for me. And that's kind of how I go about and how I approach all of my one-on-ones. I don't really necessarily look at it as like a position of authority. I look at it from a position of like experience. And that's how I really talk to members of, okay, well, this is what I did to overcome that. Or this is what I've seen other members do that have helped overcome that.
There is nothing I love more than a golf and trading analogy.
Yes, perfect.
They're the same. It's the same. It's so rich with comparisons.
It's the most mentally frustrating thing you've ever done, and you can suck. You have one good shot or one good trade, and you're coming back the next day.
You're back in it. You're like
back
hit the sweet spot,
sudden,
and you're like, yes, you're like this. That felt better. Like, God, hitting a golf ball perfectly is a chaseable. I mean, yes, it is. Yeah, it's just the best. I'm always going on a golf analogy, and people are like, oh my God. I play golf like 3 times a year, but it's just so
fun.
So good. So like such a good comparison. So I'm so glad that somebody else pulled a golf analogy.
Absolutely. I always try to make analogies with like everyday stuff for members. You know, it's usually a sport analogy, but I usually will try to make analogies. I think I think people just have such a perspective on how they look at trading and how they approach trading, and they approach trading in such a different way than they approach other things in their life because it involves money. And if you can remove the money aspect in trading, that helps you remove the emotional side of trading, which is why I try so hard to give analogies of everyday life where those emotions do not exist, because sometimes that's how you break down the wall. And that's, I tell members, you know, I go as far as like, hey, like remove your P&L from view. You know, I don't see my P&L during the day. Fun fact about me, like I don't see my P&L. I don't need to. I know exactly what I'm going to lose if I'm wrong based on my position size and my stop loss. I don't need to see how much I'm down before I get to my stop loss. You know, I don't need to see how much I'm up. If my target is $102 on a stock, I don't need to see how much I'm up when it's at 101. 101 is not my target. 102 is. My order is at 101.83, and I have a sell order sitting right there because 102 is my target. Like, I don't need to see how much I'm up or down, because once you start to see that, now all of a sudden it's about money again.
Absolutely. So you put in both sell orders when you get into a trade?
Yeah, so depending on how active I am, like if I have 3-4 different open positions, you know, I'll put orders out. If it's a volatile stock, I'll put orders out. If it's a stock that might like give you like a quick little pop and like just so I can make sure that I get my fills, it's important to have your orders out instead of waiting for the level to be reached. That's how I get. Sometimes people are like, oh my God, Mike, how'd you almost top tick that? It's like, it's not that I just knew that, I just knew this was the exact moment. It was just, that's my level. Like my targets are essentially just the resistance levels.
Yeah.
Okay, if I'm long, where's resistance? 102, 103, and 104.50. Okay, so I'm going to take profit in front of those levels, not at those levels. If I think 102 is resistance, that means that there's selling pressure at 102. So I want to be taking profit just in front of it. So I'll put my order 101.83. And then sometimes you get these situations where the stock will run up to 101.97 and then back down to 101.66. And then traders will go, oh, there's the 102. I'll sell it when it gets back there. And it never does.
Yeah.
And the stock goes down to 101. And now they say, well, now what do I do? Do I just get out at 101 or do I just hold? And you missed your opportunity to get your fill. Have your orders out there. You want to take profit as a stock goes up. You don't want to take profit as the stock goes down. But a lot of people will wait until the stock goes down and then take their profit. I will place my orders in front of those levels. So as the stock goes up, the price goes into my sell. My sell doesn't go into the price.
So smart. So smart.
Yeah. it's the little things.
Another thing that I thought of when you were just talking back to when you were talking about the one-on-ones. Like, and what's different with trading, I think, than golf is there's such a level of like shame I have found like surrounding what I have done, because in my life I'm like very driven, very successful. You know, my life on the outside looks like such a great life of a very successful person, and to take to somebody and say like, this is what I've done, it's not who I am in my life, and I feel so much shame about, like, do I like that I add to my winners when I should be taking profit? Like, God, no. Like, and I tell myself, God, like, don't fucking do that. And then I do it, and then my average is so high, and then like what was a beautiful trade, I mean, can go red. It can, like, it's just so stupid. And to have to admit that to another person is not indicative of who I am or my intelligence level or like all of these different things. And I think that I think that's why trading can be so dangerous too, because I, thank God, have not done this, but I have interviewed enough people to know that people will like blow up their accounts and then take out credit card loans and trade with that money, and then blow up that account and then take out more loans, and then the debt becomes so overwhelming that people have killed themselves, right? Like, it's scary and dangerous and full of shame, especially because you know that you can do it, because every once in a while you'll hit that perfect trade, you'll close it out when you're supposed to, and you're like, I can do that. If I can do this every time, I'm gold.
Right. It's true. It's very true. It's, and I don't ever want to see anybody, put themselves in financial ruin, and there is, some people do get like an addictive type of, situation, where you have someone that gets like addicted to gambling and puts themselves in a bad financial situation. I'll tell somebody, like, if they're a member of True Trading Group and I think that that's the kind of person that I'm dealing with, I will tell them that, hey, like, this is not for you. You should stop. And it's something that people need to take seriously. Like, this is when you decide that you're going to be a trader or you're going to go down this journey, you really need to approach it as if you are starting your own business, because you are. You're putting up your own capital. You're putting up your own money. You're going to go through the blood, sweat, and tears and the energy and effort to try to learn this skill, to try to become successful, and the sky's the limit, but you can also lose everything. You can go and you can open up a golf instructing, studio down the street from your house, and you can lose everything that you put into it, or you can turn it into a multi-million-dollar a year business. And, as many people that have kind of, people can ruin themselves, but people can also completely change their lives for the better if they're able to get this down. And the thing that I love most about trading is that it really truly is a battle against yourself with no limits. And I always use the example about my sister being an English teacher whenever I talk about it on live streams, and she could be the greatest English teacher that this world has ever seen. She's never going to make $250,000 a year.
Yep.
Yeah, she's not. It doesn't matter how good of an English. Every single one of her students could get a 98% on the state exam. It doesn't matter. She's not going to get a bonus that's going to give her a $500,000 check. It's not going to happen. It's impossible. Trading, you want to make $1,000 a year? Okay. 10,000? Sure. 100,000? Possible. $1 million? No one says you can't. It's possible. Like, it's all about, once you get it down, it's just a scale. It's just a numbers game as you scale. Instead of buying 100 shares, all of a sudden you start buying 150. Instead of buying 150, all of a sudden you start buying 250. Then you buy 500. Then you buy 750. Then 1,000. And you just start to grow yourself up. Like, a lot of people, think like what you're talking about how it's like, oh, I'm in a winning trade, I got to buy more. Like, that's how I'm going to make more money. Or I got to hold on to this longer because I got to catch a bigger move. That's how I'm going to make more money. You're going to make more money once you become consistently profitable, and hey, every month I can I can be profitable. It's just a scale. It's just scaling at that point, and you just being comfortable with the amount of money that you're going to risk on every trade. You start out risking $50 a trade, and then all of a sudden now you're risking 75, then you're risking 150, then you're risking 2, and you just scale that number higher. You climb that ladder over time, and before you know it, you're risking $1,000 per trade, and you're having $3,000-$4,000 days. Do the math. Eventually, that's the progression that's there and that's possible. But people try to get there too quickly. They don't start small and prove consistency. They try to run before they walk, and they just start swinging for the fences right away because they think trading is a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not. You really are learning a skill, and you've got to go through the process. You've got to go through and prove to yourself that you have that discipline and you have that risk management and you have that consistency before you start moving that needle higher. Otherwise, that's how you can really blow your account up. You can blow your account up very, very quickly, especially when people trade options and everything. I mean, you can blow your account up pretty fast if you don't know what you're doing.
Totally. Well, you've got to be so proud of the work that you've done in True Trading Group and the people that you've helped. That has to be just so fulfilling.
I can't even explain the feelings that I have when members will message me and tell me, something about, a milestone that they've hit, or, how many times I've had a message, a single mom of 2 who, lost her job during the COVID pandemic and was able to keep paying bills, but, through trading. Another single mother that was able to pay for her kids' tuition for college. Somebody whose house was in foreclosure that allowed them to get caught back up so they didn't have to lose their home. I mean, someone that was able to, my wife was able to retire. Like, it's so many stories like that is what makes me just kind of look back, and I get more joy at this point in my life from hearing the positive impact that True Trading Group as a platform. It's not just myself, it's the whole platform. It's the hard work that Adam has put in building that platform. Adam gets a bad rap sometimes, like unfairly. But the blood, sweat, and tears that he puts into the business side and the platform side, and then all the other moderators and even the members, like helping other members. I mean, it really is something special. And to see the positive impact that the platform has on people's lives, that brings me more joy than me hitting a monster trade on my own. Like,
sure.
Even if I can have a red day, but if I get a message like that from somebody, it's like I had the greatest day ever. It's like that is what brings me more joy. It's like I've reached a point of success in my life where, I'm obviously very blessed to be where I am, but it's like now I look at my success on like, okay, well, how many people can we positively impact? Because I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have this skill. Like, if my life went down a different path, I would not be in the situation that I am in today, like with, the successes that I've had so far in my life. And I know that. I'm humble enough to say that, like, if it wasn't for this, I would not be where I am. And I don't know where I would be. I just know I would not be here. So, like, I know the positive impact that this can have, and I have a lot of people to thank for it. Like my mentor, like, who was my boss, who was one of the partners at the fund. There was also other traders that worked on the floor at the fund who really took me under their wing and taught me a lot of things that I implement in my trading now today. And if it wasn't for the help that I got, I wouldn't be here. So I look at that to say, well, if it wasn't for them, look at the positive impact they had on my life. When someone joins True Trading Group, I really look at that like, okay, well, I have the potential through this platform to have that type of impact on this person's life. And that is a very, very powerful thing that I do not take for granted. That really does bring me a lot of joy when we're able to have those success stories with members. It really is something that is even greater than what Adam and I ever imagined when we first started this platform. It really is special.
For sure. I'm going through, I guess, sort of a growing pains with the podcast, and it has been such a reflective time of, like, I feel a little bit like an imposter. Like, I've got this great podcasts and all these people listen, and my trading's struggling, and it's made me think, do I really want to keep going with this? And I think, like, I get messages all the time of, like, that episode with that person, that one line changed my entire life, or it kept me from quitting, or it kept me from, it's like, it's really helping people. And honestly, the joy of that, plus the friends that I've made, I mean, the friends that I've made has been life-changing, specifically during COVID, when my real-life friends, there's more distance between them, all because of COVID. But to have, like, 10 traders' phone numbers who I can call and they'll pick up the phone has made all of this worth it. Like, the losses, the pain, the emotional, like, all of it. It has been so incredibly fulfilling, which I have to really rely on that and have faith that, like, it will work out, because it has brought me so much already.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, I also am a painter, and it took 15 years before that took off. And there was so much of, like, blood, sweat, and tears that went into that. But then I am lucky enough to have the perspective of looking back and being like, every bit of following that process and finding your voice and all of that has been so worth it, that I think I'm just sort of in the middle. Can't see the forest for the trees right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been there. I've been there. I know the feeling. And there's, a lot of people think that, like, I hear a lot from members who are like, oh, well, I've been doing this for a year. I should be here by now. Like, people think that because they've been doing something for a certain amount of time, that they should be where they want to be by that moment. And it's not true. It's all part of people's growth process and figuring out what it is that they're doing wrong, and then being able to actually fix what it is that they're doing wrong. People take different amount of time to do a lot of different things in life. People take a different amount of time to commit to saying, hey, I'm going to propose. Some people propose after dating someone for a year. Some people takes them 10 years before they decide to propose. Some people, if they have issues with drugs or alcohol, it takes them one time to go through the process. Other people, it takes them 5-6 times to go through that process. There's so many different things in life that everybody goes through differently. And I think people compare themselves way too much to others, especially because of social media. And you have people that go on social media and they post like, oh man, I made 10 grand today. Look at me. It's like, okay, well, that, you have people that see that are like, oh, well, that person's only been doing this for that long, for a year. I've been doing this for 2 years. How come I'm not there yet? And they get very discouraged, and they feel very defeated, and they feel like they're a failure, and they get very negative and very down on themselves. I've seen people. I just had a one-on-one with a member that literally struggled for 3 years as a trader, and now has just finally reached a point of consistency over the last, I'd say probably, like, what's it? So this is August now, so 4 months. So over the last 4 months, they've just reached like a point of consistency. I've been struggling mightily for 3 years, but now for the last 4 months, for the first time ever, they've had green, 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 and their green was 6,000, then it was 9,000, then it was 16,000, and then now it's 17,000.
That's amazing.
For the month. Now, they're still red over the course of the 3-year period.
Sure.
But for the first time ever, they've put together 4 consecutive green months with a win rate of around 68%, and now they're finally having that turning point. And it's like they were sending me messages. I just had a one-on-one with them just the other week, but they were, again, sending me messages today in chat, just like over the moon happy and over the moon excited that I finally turned the corner, and I'm excited, and honestly, they have 2 more months like this, and they would have made back all the money that they lost over the last 3 years. And they did that it would take 5 or 6 months. So it's like you could, once you get to your point, once you have that aha moment, once it clicks, once you get it took that person 3 years. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to be making that kind of money in a month trading.
Sure.
I mean, they had a bigger account. They didn't start with $1,000, just obviously, as I'm talking about the money. But, the point is the time, like it took that person 3 years. There's a lot of people that have been doing this for like a year, and they're like, oh, I can't believe I'm still not where I want to be. But if you give up, if that person gave up 6 months ago, they would have missed this moment. And
Totally.
I just feel like people just need to keep going. I mean, it's tough. You're going to feel like you can't do it. You're going to feel like you want to quit. I'm sure you felt like you wanted to quit when you were going through your painting.
Totally.
I'm sure there's probably many times when you wanted to, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. And it doesn't help when your friends and family. And that's why it's really important that you have, like you said, about building the relationships that you built from the podcast with other traders. That is so important to have that support, because nobody else understands. And anyone else that you try to talk to that is not a trader is going to make you feel like you're an idiot. Your friends, your family, your coworkers, they're all going to tell you that you're wasting your time. And they're all going to give you negativity, because none of them are going to tell you, oh yeah, I totally understand what they don't get it. So to have those people that you can talk to, I think is so important. And I'm glad that you've kind of built that circle of people around you, because I think it's crucial. Trading can be very lonely. And if you feel like you're out there on an island and there's no one for you to reach out to, it can be a dark place. And I think that support is huge.
Totally. My husband also has never taken a trade in his life, which is a benefit really for me, because I gotta do my own thing and find my own voice and trade I can't be having someone tell me exactly how to do it. But anyway, it's been nobody in my life trades. My dad was a day trader.
Oh, wow.
He passed away, but I have seen the amazing aspects of it and the dark aspects. So I'm aware.
For sure.
Well, Mike, this was better than I hoped it would be, and I had very high expectations. So, congratulations.
I'm glad. I'm happy. I was thrilled when you had asked me to come on here. I was excited to have our I can't believe it's been an hour already. Like I said, I could talk about this stuff till I'm blue in the face. So I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on. I hope your listeners enjoyed it, and I hope that we talked about maybe a couple of things that really click for some people and can help people on their journey. And just for everybody that's out there, for everybody that's listening, some people, just don't ever forget when you do look at a successful trader, always remember that person, with where they are in their trading career, they once were in the exact same position that you find yourself in today. Never forget that. There's not a single successful trader on this planet that logged onto a computer, opened up a chart, and just started trading and became a millionaire. There's not one on this planet. Every single successful trader has had their ups and has had their downs and has doubted themselves and their ability to do it at some point. Every single one. So I think that's something that everybody that's listening, I think you all need to remember, that the most successful traders out there once were in the exact position that you were in today.
Such an important message, for sure. All right, well, have a great night, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Enjoy your night, too. Take care.
By accessing this podcast, you acknowledge that the Penny Lane podcast makes no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional or financial advice. Unless specifically stated otherwise, the Penny Lane podcast does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. The third-party materials or content of any third-party site referenced in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions, standards, or policies of the Penny Lane podcast. The Penny Lane podcast assumes no responsibility or liability for the accuracy or completeness of the content contained in third-party materials or on third-party sites referenced in this podcast, or the compliance with applicable laws of such materials and or links referenced herein.